It is so satisfying to be the one who can save the day. And you can do it often because you're good at a lot of things. You can work hard, think quickly, read people, navigate complexity, synthesize information, prepare, persuade, improvise. Whatever the moment calls for, you can usually rise to it. And when you have that kind of range, you stop thinking of it as a set of skills. It just feels like who you are. Like you kind of take it for granted that you can handle anything. But that way of seeing yourself can become an invisible strategy, the lens you use for solving almost everything, even if a problem requires a different approach. When that happens, your results will slow down, even if you feel like you're working harder. You've built an identity around being the person who can handle anything. And now it's potentially limiting your growth. In this video, we're going to talk about why this is so common with high achievers, what to look out for, and how to avoid this pitfall so that you don't hit a ceiling on your growth and impact. So how did you get here? How did your ability to handle problems independently become so integral to your identity? Here's how I see it. Humans tend to gravitate toward behavior that they're being rewarded for, and away from behavior that they're being punished for. And that doesn't imply that there's always an authority figure handing out rewards and punishments. They could be indirect. Those rewards and punishments could come from the environment. You could say that learning is how we adapt to respond to these rewards and punishments. When we were kids, we did this constantly, and it shaped us both consciously and unconsciously. You learn that smiling and saying please might make it easier to get what you want, or that it feels good to catch a ball. And if you discover a natural ability or talent in a particular area, it can become a powerful lever for getting rewards. For instance, imagine as a little kid, you make a funny face or you mimic an adult, and suddenly there's a whole room full of people laughing and clapping. And you're like, whoa, how do I make that happen again? Something like that could be your superhero origin story for how you learn that you could shape your environment. If you like the result of doing something, you keep doing it. So the skills compound. You get better and better. But for a lot of gifted kids, it's a little more complicated than that. Here's the problem. When you show early promise in something, it increases the expectations that other people have of you. So instead of supporting and nurturing you and your talent, your parents, teachers, coaches raised the bar and challenged you beyond your skill level. Or they left you on your own because you appeared to be fine. Either way, the better you got, the less encouragement you had. The less you had anybody to show you what to do and how to do it. So not only did you strengthen your abilities, you strengthened a tendency to work on your own, rely on yourself, and not expect help. You strengthened a deep habit of self-sufficiency. Then you add in a school culture where collaboration is seen as cheating and competition is encouraged, and your metamorphosis is complete. If you want a problem solved, it's on you to solve it. Wait, maybe this is your villain origin story. The suite of skills you rely on for problem solving are really useful. So where's the ceiling? It's in the way that you deploy these skills. They're all through the lens of, I can handle this. I'm the one to do it. That bias towards self-sufficiency sets you up to proceed as though you already have the solution, even if you haven't consciously thought of the solution at all, and you might not even have the necessary skills and knowledge. You just reflexively pull the same levers you're used to. You're so used to having the answer that it doesn't even occur to you that you might not have it. And when your chosen solution doesn't work, which it might not, because it's centered on you and not on the work at hand, that's when you get in your own way. Your drive towards self-sufficiency is clouding your understanding of the situation. There are two kinds of responses here based on what's worked in the past. Some people, when their solution doesn't work, they double down and try harder. They might even take on responsibility that isn't theirs. These are the intensifiers. They tend toward control. Others back off. They let go. They avoid conflict or difficult decisions. They just move on. These are the optimizers who tend toward resignation. The overworked, overfunctioning intensifier hits a ceiling because they keep solving beyond the scope and absorbing everyone else's problems, thus becoming indispensable instead of promotable. The nimble optimizer hits a ceiling because they stay above the fray. They never ground themselves in the leadership moves that require commitment, conflict, or shared ownership. Both types are so reliant on their invisible strategy of self-sufficiency that they miss the ways in which it's not working. They just do the same, but more, and that leads to diminishing returns over time. If you're so good, then why would you actually get less effective over time? It's because as you rise higher in your career and take on more complex challenges, you need new moves. And clinging to your story of self-sufficiency leads you to do the same old moves just to prove that you're capable. But what you need to understand is that you've already proved that. That's not the game you're playing anymore. The real question is, what's next? The new game, the one that's going to open up a lot of possibility for you, is to let go of seeing each new situation as a test of your skills. It's a test of your resourcefulness. Can you correctly identify what is needed and find it, even if you don't already have it? The goal is not self-sufficiency, where you do what's required to reinforce your identity as the one who can handle it on your own. The goal is situational sufficiency, where you figure out what's required to reach the desired outcome and do that. I'm going to share 3 practices to help you make the shift from self-sufficiency to situational sufficiency. The first is already underway as a result of watching this video. It's awareness. This is a powerful mechanism in itself. You can start to see the strategy that used to be invisible. Once you become open to the idea that you're acting out of habit to fulfill an identity rooted in self-sufficiency, you start to see more and more choices that are available to you to approach things in terms of situational sufficiency. And this gives you a whole new set of things to get good at. You can practice seeing not just your usual move, but other possibilities, even if you don't catch them in time to make a different choice. Eventually, you will. The second practice is to embrace discomfort. As you experiment with new moves, it might feel weird and uncomfortable. That's good. The discomfort that comes from doing something new is a sign of growth. That's distinct from the discomfort that comes from the frustration of doing the same thing the same way and having it not really work anymore. Up to this point, you may have measured the value of your work by the effort that you put in. Intensifiers tend to overvalue high effort, and optimizers tend to overvalue minimal effort. Instead, you can use the discomfort of the unfamiliar as a sign that you're engaging in deliberate practice, which is how you systematically improve at something. You can use that discomfort as a new metric of success. The third practice is to expand your resourcefulness beyond yourself, to include other people. When you shift into situational sufficiency, you start asking yourself, what does this situation require? Sometimes the honest answer is another person's expertise, another person's labor, another person's perspective, another person's guidance. If your reflex is self-sufficiency, your brain won't even register these as options. On the other hand, if you intentionally challenge your long-held pattern of independence to the point of isolation, you open the door to new inputs that can help you make faster progress and get better results. This is hard for a lot of high achievers who have been burned in the past. But the lesson doesn't have to be, don't ever trust anyone again. Instead, the lesson can be the importance of discernment. It's a skill set in itself to learn how to find trustworthy people and then trust them appropriately. It's not that you need help exactly. You don't need help to do what you've already done. But what will it take to do what you want to do next? You can reframe help as collaboration to round out your toolkit and get a boost from the contributions of others. If all of your tactics stem from that same core strategy of proving your self-sufficiency, you're going to bump up against a ceiling on your growth at some point. These 3 practices will take you past that. By getting out of that cycle, a problem becomes a puzzle to solve, not a personal test. When you're not putting your identity on the line, everything's lighter. Sometimes sheer hard work is needed. Sometimes you need to come through with a genius insight. But when you have the space to look past the usual options, you might realize that the solution is something other than you. Putting the ball in someone else's court, letting time pass, renegotiating the budget, finding missing information, or redefining the problem completely. Your contributions are powerful, but trying to prove your value is holding you back. The irony is that when you focus on situational sufficiency instead of self-sufficiency, you'll become capable of far more.